Good afternoon, everybody. Today is August 27th, and the Board of Commissioners' special meeting is called to order at 1:30. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Black.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hodges.
Here.
Commissioner Weinstein.
Here.
Commissioner Andrews.
Here.
Commissioner Douther.
Present.
First item on the agenda is public comment. This floor is now open for public comment for anything that is not on the agenda. Please take your time, but you have 3 minutes, and be civil and respectful, and please state your name and address when you approach the podium. Public comment, anyone? Public comment is now closed. First item on the second item on the agenda is the city manager contract with Mr. Daniels.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Commissioners, hopefully you all have a copy of the agreement in front of you. I went through and made the necessary adjustments, and I'm happy to bring it forward to the Commission, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Well, I'll start off. I don't mind. I've reviewed the employment agreement very thoroughly and discussed it with Mr. Daniels. I think that it's a fair offer. I think we'd be prudent to look at it. I don't know if the Commission has any other changes on it. I think that let's see, I was going to say there was two things. Oh, yes, I think the one item that I was curious about that I was looking at was the vacation time, but I decided that you're going to be working so hard during the rest of the year, you deserve that. It's instead of the 4 weeks that had been on other contracts for previous city managers, it's 5 weeks. I think that the fact that we're not going to have or Mr. Daniels hasn't asked for a moving allowance, that's in our favor. I think that the one area that we are changing from, besides the $125,000 base salary, the one other item is paying for dependent health insurance, dental insurance, and vision insurance. But that was one thing, and I agree with that for the city manager. I think that I remember a conversation, maybe it was when the previous city manager, actually, we were paying the full health coverage and other coverages for the city manager prior to Mr. Evans, but when Mr. Evans came on, he was single, but we did I had a note somewhere in my file that should he have dependents in the future, we were going to cover those dependent coverage for the health, dental, and vision. So I am comfortable with the contract. That's it until someone else says something.
Okay, well, I have no problem with the contract. I think everything looks pretty fair and open and up front. I did have one question, though. Originally, when we hired you as the interim city manager, we talked about doing an evaluation on you in 90 days. I don't know if this would still pertain to this agreement, since it's now city manager instead of interim city manager, or would we still be able to do a 90-day evaluation?
I believe the language that's in here, it'll be on page 5, section 9. It says the commission shall review during an agenda item posted at a noticed public meeting the performance of manager at least once annually in advancement of the adoption of the annual operating budget. So to me, that means if you decide that you want to evaluate me in 90 days or if you want to evaluate me in 6 months, I appreciate the feedback. So I stand ready.
Okay,
Have
thank
no
you.
objection.
Okay, thank you.
I personally think that since we're offering you this position, you've already gone through the evaluation period, so I don't think we need to do one in the near future anyway. Any more discussion?
I have no questions. Mr. Daniels and I discussed it. I think it's a pretty fair deal. Yeah, I think it's, yeah.
I do have just one question, though. I had made a note on page 5, but I guess it's B, it doesn't say it's B. But I wrote, underlined Florida Commission on Ethics, and I was questioning that that was the correct name.
What page?
Page 5 at the
Page
top.
5.
I'm at page 5, and then what,
Right up here, Florida Commission on.
oh, there it is.
Is that the correct name?
Yes. State of Florida Commission on Ethics.
That is the correct name?
COE, yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to double check.
I also, Mayor, do like the inclusion of the two-year contract. I think that's very important. I think that so many times that commissions, especially in our changing culture and society now, will just maybe want to obtain the services of city managers as commissions change. And I think that when a city manager is doing a good job, he's doing what he's being paid to do, that it doesn't matter. Everybody should be able to work together. And so I do think that's a good inclusion in this contract.
I'll open the floor for public comment on this item. Floor is closed.
Well, I would like to make the motion, if we're ready to make the motion, to approve the employment agreement with Bob Daniels for the two-year period at the, that would be for the beginning salary of $125,000 as per the rest of the employment agreement. And look forward to great service. And how old are you now? You'll be here for 20 years? 20 years. To make you 81. You'll be the oldest city manager, but that's a good distinction too, you know.
It's in the fine print, right?
Okay. Great.
Second.
Any more discussion? Will City Clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Andrews.
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Yes. Congratulations. Next item on the agenda is ordinance 2019-17. Director Portal?
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, this is an amendment to the sign ordinance. We brought this to you before to correct a problem that developed the last time we amended the sign ordinance. The purpose in the last amendment was just to provide some regulation for commercial activities, and all of the language addressing that was in the second part of each paragraph of that ordinance. But at some point, the word commercial was put in the beginning of the paragraph, which had the effect of removing all regulations for residential lots. And that being the bulk of our lots, it's having a big influence on how we administer the code. And so what we're proposing is we do recognize that there are additional changes that need to be made to the sign ordinance, some of which we talked to you about a year ago. At that time, the commission was not ready to move forward with those. We're going to go ahead and refer it back to the Planning Commission, as you said. It will be going to their meeting on the 9th, and we will propose additional changes to the body to clear it up, clean it up, reorganize it, make the cross-references, and address a couple of the issues that have come up about the fence ordinance. And then it will come back to you in October for second reading. But what we're proposing is that you go ahead today and approve this amendment that we had asked for before, so that we do have something on the books, on the way for regulating residential uses. Otherwise, most of the city is without regulation. The title of the ordinance between first and second reading would not change, but it does need to be read.
Ordinance number 2019-17, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 110, zoning, Article 6, supplementary district regulations, Division 3, walls, fences, hedges, sand fences, providing for severability, providing for recognition of state preemption, and providing for an effective date. First reading.
Any discussion from the commission?
Yes, I remember when this initially came up. Are we ready for our discussion? And I was just very, very confused in April of 18 how it was to be enforced and what was to be done about it. So, but then I had an epiphany, and I remembered how I remember how we started the conversation to allow approval for commercial because of the gentleman that was here for safety of his commercial enterprise. So then it all made much more sense to me. So I'm fine with it now, and I definitely feel that, yes, it does need to be, it needs certainly to go back to the Planning Commission, but it needs to be in effect so that any kind of changes or anything that a homeowner, property owner wants to do, whether it's by intentional or unintentional means, gets straightened out before we bring it, for full course. So I agree with it.
I'll open the floor for public comment.
Excuse me, I had a comment before you do that, I'm sorry. We had talked about a couple months ago about the odd-shaped lots throughout the city, and there was certain rules and regulations that apply to these odd-shaped lots. Is that still going to be standard on that?
Yes, the standard remains the same for that. We will look at it. Some of the issue is, especially on the pie-shaped lots, that the house sits so far back. What happens if you define the rear yard of the house as starting with the back wall of the house, some people have to sit so far off the water that they lose all ability to provide any kind of privacy along a big portion of their lot. I'll bring back graphics to show what the impacts are of that portion of the code. That was really what we were trying to address over a year ago.
I do believe it's like the older section, of the city that had those very strange sized lots, and the houses were almost like right on top of each other there.
Yes, we have a lot of those situations in the older sections, and in most cases, the houses themselves are actually in violation of setbacks. Sometimes they're practically up against the one or more property boundary, and that makes it a little bit complex for fencing. Most of those cases are situations where they're inland lots, they're not on the water, and so they're allowed to have a 6-foot fence around the back anyway, so that doesn't affect them the same way that the seaside houses are affected by the code. We are looking at all that. We're going to bring back all the details so that you have a full explanation of what the impacts and potentials are.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
All right, the floor is now open for public comment on this item.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bay Shore Drive, Madeira Beach. I just repeat again what I had said a couple of weeks ago about houses and their setbacks, where one can be back from the water 50 feet, one can be 30 feet, one can be 25 feet. So the way that it was reading, it was 4-foot fence from the back of the building. And so the person next to you could have one real close and, tall and what have you. So that's going to be worked. I hope, anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak? Public comment is now closed. Any more discussion?
No, but I move to approve ordinance 2019-17, contingent on the Planning Commission review.
Just a point of reference, I think it's going to go through the review. I don't think you can, and this might be a legal question for Ralph, but I don't think you can put a condition on accepting it at first reading. Obviously, that's a condition before you'll see it at the second reading. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ralph. Help me out.
Yep, I think that Linda has explained that this will go to the planning commission between first and second reading.
Yes.
So what your motion can be is that you approve it for second reading, and it'll go to second reading, and by the time it gets to second reading, you can find out and confirm that it's gone to planning commission. I think also some of the other commissioners wanted to make sure that someone from planning commission would be here on those kind of items to explain their rationale. So you just need, if you approved on first reading, then Linda will take it through planning commission.
Okay,
before
to be
second
approved on first reading, right? Because the intent, or my intent is that, any abuses, whether they're intentional or non-intentional, will not be allowed to continue. I mean, that's why I want it approved as soon as possible. I didn't know the word.
Right.
But,
You'll get a
okay, approved on
recommendation,
first
yeah.
reading.
Thank you.
Okay, that's what I want. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Will City Clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Yes. Before we adjourn, Director Pierce has asked to say a few words. Did you want to speak?
Yes,
Oh.
just Mitch Pavelski, 916 Bay Point Drive.
Let me just say you should have spoken up when I had public comment.
I'm sorry, I thought you were on this ordinance, I thought that was the second and final reading.
No.
I thought it came to you before, and then it came back with commercial in it, and that's when you tabled it at the last meeting. I thought this time coming back, taking commercial out was the second reading.
We're starting over again at first reading again. We're having two first reading. So then from here, it'll go to planning commission. Then it'll come back here for second reading sometime more than 14 days from now, because we have to advertise 14 days in advance of the second reading.
Okay. So this will then be workshopped by the planning commission with changes to come back before, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Linda, do you know when the planning commission meeting is going to be?
Yes, it's September 9th.
So September 9th at 6 p.m.? If
Yeah,
you're interested,
well,
that will be
we
the
have
planning commission to
It's
come
been
to.
advertised at 5 or as close thereafter as
Oh,
we
5
can,
o'clock?
because there's a workshop in advance.
5 o'clock, September 9th.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to make a couple of comments about the budget after the workshop.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you wanted to do it now. Okay. In that case, there being no further business, we are adjourned at 1:49.
Whoa. Just move to second reading. Doesn't approve that. Walt, what were you gonna do? The budget then, or something? Okay, maybe you can do it during reports, at the end of the regular